government's failure.
Mr Speaker.
Kevin Haig.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I want to begin by quoting the Law Commission from the foreword of their report, where they say, the principle under which we have approached this review is that New Zealanders live in a free and democratic society. They are subject only to such limitation as can be justified in such a society. They have liberty to behave as they choose, as long as their actions respect the rights of others and are not contrary to the law. Public policy decisions that are made to restrict activity have to be justified by strong arguments that it is in the public interest that individuals and corporations do not exercise their freedom in particular ways. We believe the recommendations in the report meet that test. And Mr Speaker, at the heart of the debate that we have been holding in this House over months and indeed years is a disagreement about where the limits should lie to individual liberty. In general, this House has moved to limit personal liberty where it has threatened harm or cost to society itself, where it threatens harm to others, particularly without their consent, and where harm is threatened to the individual themselves. For example, we insist on seatbelts in cars, not so much because of the cost of health care which society would incur, but because of the risk of injury to the wearer. So we limit personal liberty in all of those circumstances. The Law Commission's report goes on to document considerable harm caused by alcohol consumption to those who drink it, the people they interact with, and the wider society, including those who have to pick up the pieces when things go wrong. 1 in 3 New Zealand drinkers, for example, report being harmed by their own drinking in the past year alone. At least a third of all recorded offences that the police deal with are committed by someone who has been consuming alcohol. Over 1,000 deaths a year are related to alcohol, along with untold illness and injury. And most of this harm is sustained by those communities who are already marginalised by poverty, racism and other factors. Alcohol magnifies and compounds that harm. Mr Speaker, I'm not a wowser. I don't believe in prohibition. I enjoy a few drinks, and I would say that I derive some benefit from them. But those benefits that are derived by those of us who do enjoy a few drinks must be weighed against the very considerable harms that are done to our society by alcohol. There's plenty of evidence to support most of the Law Commission's recommendations, and there's been one particularly powerful report, Alcohol No Ordinary Commodity, by Babor and others on behalf of the World Health Organization in 2003, where experts ranked possible interventions to reduce alcohol-related harm based on reliable evidence. I won't run through all of the actions that they rank, but the most effective actions that governments can take are a suite of actions that are grouped as regulation of physical availability, so where alcohol can be purchased, when it can be purchased and so on, increasing alcohol taxes and lowering blood alcohol limits for driving. There is also very strong evidence around advertising and sponsorship. Yet, our government has essentially chosen to take very little or no action in precisely these areas that would have most effect on reducing alcohol-related harm. And it's also chosen to take little or no action in the areas that the Law Commission has recommended and prioritised. Instead, the government has focused on preserving maximal individual liberty, totally without evidence of effectiveness. So focused have they been on this one area that in most cases they have not even been willing to try to influence the individual choices that New Zealand citizens make. Alcohol will, under this bill, or these set of bills, will in most cases continue to be available more or less anywhere, anytime, Consumers will still be bathed in alcohol marketing wherever they go. Alcohol will continue to be available cheaper than milk. We will continue to allow much more drinking before driving than most other countries. There won't be even any information on alcohol labels, so much for the market theory. And penalties for selling to those underage will remain pathetically weak. The approach taken by the government is more like a game show based on exposing competitors to extreme temptation than a serious attempt at healthy public policy. I wonder who will be the survivors. Some of the elements of government's response have no evidence at all to support them. In the Babel Review, there was no evidence that voluntary codes of practice for bars had any effect at all. Yet that is precisely the approach that government now favours around RTDs. Others of the government's responses show a stubborn refusal to learn from the experience of other countries in a form of New Zealand exceptionalism. Here, for example, are the countries who already have blood alcohol limits of 0.5 milligrams per mil or less: Australia, Austria, Belgium, the Czech Republic, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Iceland, Israel, Italy, Japan, Netherlands, Norway, Poland, Portugal, Slovak Republic, South Korea, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, Turkey. But no, we'll stand with the Americans. Where they go, we go. Interestingly, the approach government has adopted is more or less exactly what the Hospitality Association lobbied for and other parts of the alcohol industry thought they might be able to get away with. That match of government policy to industry demands is becoming disturbingly familiar. We see it in government's interactions with the food industry, with the Aussie banks, with the roading lobby, with the big carbon polluters, and so on. So ironically, under the guise of individual liberty, government has actually ceded control of our economy, society, and environment more and more to major commercial interests at the expense of human ones and the expense of the collective good. The Green Party, Mr. Speaker, stands instead for an economy set up to deliver on our collective social and environmental goals. We stand for a society in which we all look after each other. We stand for a society that is prepared to limit individual liberty and constrain corporate interests in order to protect itself and each one of us from harm and cost. The relationship New Zealand society has with alcohol is a sick one. The harm associated with that dysfunction is massive, and the mandate exists from the New Zealand public for substantial change. The Law Commission, Mr. Speaker, has given what history suggests will turn out to be a once-in-a-generation opportunity to limit that harm. We remain frustrated and disappointed that the government has chosen not to take up that opportunity. We will vote for this bill because it is a step in the right direction. But, sir, it is a baby step when a giant stride was needed.
I call Dr. Cam Calder.
Mr. Speaker, I'm delighted to take a short call on this. The bill is now divided into three bills: the sale and supply